Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. So we're going to have Mrs. David Zama to introduce the author of this masterpiece for us this evening. The text, I began reading it, I must confess, I haven't gone through the whole thing, but it is a text that is a must-have for every Cameroonian, every Southern Cameroonian particularly. So, Ms. Zama, please, you have the floor.
Yes.
Hello, good morning. Thank you. I am so delighted and thankful for this opportunity to introduce to you someone whom I've lately discovered as a great writer with a gentle sense of humor. I am equally admired her language. She has the knack to weave in words or phrases from her mother tongue into her English script. Much like a chef spicing savory soup with pepper, ginger, ginseng, or cotmagin. If I could think of one word to describe Ngwebangbong Bekum, for that's her full first name, I would say the outstanding word is overcoming. It is thanks to her undying determination to overcome obstacles and sudden misfortunes that we are all gathered here today, albeit virtually. Mary started elementary school in Santa and completed it in the then coastal city of Victoria. After obtaining her GCE level certificate from Our Lady of Lourdes, Mancon, she continued to the government bilingual grammar school, Moliko. Mary Ngu is a holder of a bachelor's degree and a matrice in English from the University of Yaoundé. It was while she was writing her thesis entitled Optimism and Changing in Alice Walker's The Color Purple and Willa Cather's My Antonia that she had her first lesson in editing from her professor and research director, Nalova Lionga. After graduating, numerous research students cited her dissertation, not just for the content, but for the sheer beauty of the language. Armed with her BA, she was one of the lucky graduates to have been recruited within the special government program codenamed Mille Cinq Cents. Given the choice, she selected Ministry of Communication as top on her list of 3. That was the beginning of the realization of a dream come true. Within 3 months, she was appointed to the then Radio Cameroon. Ever since secondary school days, she nursed the dream of becoming a broadcaster. Barely few months of sending in reports on luncheon dates and the national world news from Radio Central, the provincial radio station, she was transferred to the national station. Almost immediately, Mary Magdalene Ngu began co-hosting Sunday Afternoon Request with Chui Mbungwi on Sundays, Success Hour with Charles Lander on Mondays, while presenting early news briefings during the week. She is fond of saying that Shasha Ndimbe was the desk editor who initiated her into news editing. She quickly moved on from news briefs, doing interviews and tape editing to the news anchor, especially the 3 p.m. news. Mary Ngu Ekoka's colleagues used to praise her for doing a good job at editing, presenting news analysis, contributing to Cameroon Report, which later became Cameroon Calling. Besides, she hosted other talk shows, including Calling the Women for Olive Shang and the seasonal holiday workshop. Despite all her great efforts, Mary always felt average vis-a-vis the professionally trained journalists. In fact, she was convinced that she could do better if she had training in that field. That is why she grabbed the opportunity when it presented itself. She became one of the 12 candidates who passed the entry exam into the newly created Division 3 of the Advanced School of Mass Communication. That decision was a huge challenge because At that time, Mary was pregnant with her daughter, B. Indeed, a lot of people were astonished and tried to discourage her, but she refused to give in to them. For fear of being discriminated against because of her pregnancy, the day she had to face the international jury, the final phase of testing, she dressed in a wrapper, letting the free peace to flow freely in front. Upon graduation, she became an economic correspondent when Radio Cameroon had become CRTV. Alongside her daily reports and news analysis, she was also appointed as the first female in the Brigade Spéciale, covering the presidency of the Republic. Unlike most colleagues who depended on international news agencies, Reuters and Agence France Presse, Mary would often visit hardware stores and go to the local markets in Yaoundé, namely Moliko and Marché Mfundi, to take the pulse of demand and supply and the overall effect on prices. As soon as she presents some of her papers for the 3 p.m. radio show news, the television house would call. Eric Chinje would say, please, could you come to Mbala with your paper and do a report for us? You can see from these details that Mary is very attached to her hometown. While keenly observing the international scene, her feet have always been planted into the soil where she grew up and studied. She believes that she owes a lot to her family, her village, and all the kind people of her community who supported her in her youth. And since she is a very curious person, she tends to see beyond what meets the eye. For example, tradition clashes with education, religion, and modernism. Through her writing, she holds up the mirror for people to take a closer look at themselves, hopefully to instill in them the desire to transcend themselves, to surmount the multiple obstacles impeding their progress. However, she proudly displays her culture through the program she co-hosted, Focus on Africa, on Columbus Cable Television in Ohio, USA. Upon return home, she worked with a team of media professionals under the direction of the Prime Minister's Office. For the first time in Cameroon, the government published the presidential elections on the internet in 2004. Thereafter, she was appointed at the Prime Minister's Office as research officer. She juggled her job with a research program at Estik Yaoundé, where she earned a master's in information and communication sciences. When she lost her job in 2017, having worked at the Cameroon Embassy in Belgium as second counselor and head of communication center for almost 4 years, her family and friends were sad. What a terrible way to go on retirement. Nevertheless, unbeknown to her sympathizers and onlookers, her shock and disappointment was indeed a new appointment. Here is a taste of Mary's overcoming spirit. Having published her first collection of poems, Earth, Breath, and Touch, while in the US in 2001. She picked up the thread from there, defying COVID-19 and taking advantage of social distancing. Finally, in 2021, to her credit, 3 books were successfully published in the last quarter of the year. Firstly, it was Behold the College Girls by the reputable Bamenda-based Langer Research and Publishing. True to her objective, the novel is like a magnifying glass held over the remote world of social life in a typical girls' boarding college. It was followed in October by author's memoir, My Foolishness Prevails, published by Teach Services, a long-established US publishing house. It is an open-hearted account highlighting the plight of millions of married women throughout the world, a story that readers have described as page-turner. To crown it all, And the reason why we are here this morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are, our very own Cameroonian, US-based PS Books published Escape from Prison last November. Though Mary Bongu wrote it while in jail in the US, in a sense, it is the lyrical version of My Foolishness Prevails. All I can say, my dear sister, is may God grant you wisdom, good health, and a long life to write and publish more books that would touch and transform the world. I thank you all for listening.
Thank you very much, Ms. Delphine Zama. That was really a very insightful presentation, getting to know our author today. I do know that poetry is generally considered the most challenging genre of literature. And to speak more to what Ms. Zama just said about our author, to have chosen the genre of poetry is very telling of the kind of person that she is. Very often, it is easier to hear that somebody wrote a short story, somebody wrote a piece of drama, but to engage in poetry, it is generally assumed, as a student of literature for a long time, I won't classify them, but generally people assume that poetry is the most challenging form of literature. So we really want to, again, underscore the fact that this is quite a great fit by our sister, by our author, who is here present. At this point, we'd like to hear a word from her. Give us a little bit of what you have to share to your audience today.
Grace, for me, unreserved, something I did not deserve, according to the flouted divine law that brought me laying so low. Grace to me accorded again at the time of mounting pain, as it must be for an oyster, a pearl beyond logic for nature to foster. For who could have imagined a wholesome birth being the product of a troublesome death? When gain was gone, enemies jeering, behold the dawn of mirthful cheering. That is the poem entitled Grace. And it's from this collection that we are presenting to you today. My dear, Your Excellencies, distinguished professors, I would say I have respect for you in all of your ranks. Like they say, all protocol respected. My family and friends, spiritual family, all of you, distinguished professors and doctors who are here, students, my friends of Our Lady of Lourdes, my ex-students, my ex-classmates, I mean to say, and former colleagues of the media in Cameroon, even BBC World Service is represented here tonight. I thank you all so much for having taken a precious part of your time to be here with us tonight. I really pray and hope that this time that you have spent with us will be something meaningful for all of us. I want to seize this opportunity to thank Dr. Nche Zama who is a surgeon and is a candidate for governor of Pennsylvania. He is the one that encouraged me to write poetry. I would write something and thinking I'm just joking. He would say, my goodness, you did this? And I would say, fine, I got excited, but it's something that I laid aside. And years afterwards, he asked me, what are you doing in offices? You should be out there writing stuff for us. So I thank God for having this opportunity to having done it. I want to tell my Cameroonian community here this evening that my spiritual family has brought a very international aspect to our gathering tonight. Sisters and brothers, I may not call you by your name, but suffice it for me to recognize you by the countries, the various countries that you are representing here tonight. Uganda, Kenya, Germany, Belgium, the UK, Rwanda, Southern Sudan, Ghana, Greece, the Philippines, Zambia, the United States of America, South Africa, Jamaica, Latvia, Myanmar, Tanzania, and I don't know who else I have forgotten. Also, I want to really give a strong hand of salute to Professor Ephraim Guafo, who did the foreword to this book. When you would get a copy, you get more information about how things came about. And also, I'd like to thank somebody who is like my co-author in the person of Frank Gariba, because he's the one that did almost all the illustration in this poetry collection. So may we all have a good time, relaxed, inspiring, and a time of motivation here tonight. Thank you so much, Spears Books, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, Dr. Gomia. Thank you, Dr. Atanga. Thank you for all of you who are here. Can you imagine all of this delegation coming to welcome a woman who is coming out of jail? I am spoiled. Thank you so much for your love, and thank you for my family that have watched every step of the way, helping me every step of the way. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I love you. I wish I could hug all of you. Back to you, Mr. Moderator. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that very moving presentation. Our author, I don't want to say that talking about jail in literary sense, those of us who walk around freely down the street may be in a real jail. It's not only about being in some physical structure where you are being limited to go out. You can actually be so-called free, yet you are truly in a real jail, struggling daily. Again, thank you very much, our author.